This is Josh Tills here today giving you another vlog for my evaluation of my final product, Runaway Boy. Hopefully you've seen it. If not, it will be included with my other videos on YouTube, so you won't have to go very far because this will be on YouTube anyway. Here's doing my evaluation, as I've already said. This should be my last sort of vlog and my last sort of piece for my coursework. So should be able to get this out of the way pretty quick. And pretty much what I'm going to do in the video section of the evaluation, sort of go through some comments that people have left, go through what I thought about my piece, say how I personally felt about it, and say what I would improve, and my own feedback to what I would do and things like that. And yeah, just sort of general things like that. I'm going to go through like what other audience members said, and just all round general things like that about what they've said, about what I think I can improve, and yeah, hopefully we should be able to get it done. So I'm going to start off with sort of saying what I thought I would improve and things like that. So I would sort of say that one thing I would definitely improve is the music. Music isn't really my forte, and the music is definitely one thing that I felt unconfident about. For me, it sort of felt as though the piece was good, but I needed just some form of music to add on to it, and I just pushed a few notes. I didn't get it off anywhere. I literally created it all by myself, and it was just sort of like I pushed a few notes just to try and fit it in as much as with the film as I could, and this has been highlighted by other audience members all over YouTube. Pretty much I think every person who's left a comment has said that the music's really annoying, and that maybe you should try sort of adding sort of chords rather than just single notes, because that way it won't sound prominent and it will be sustained for longer. This will be one thing I'll improve about my piece without a shadow of a doubt, because I think it'd make my piece a lot better. And obviously if copyright wasn't an issue, then I already know sort of like the songs I would have used. I had them sort of picked out from day one when we said that we were doing an opening of a sequence, but you know, beggars can't be choosers, and I still think I ended up with a really strong piece and things like that. So yeah, that's one thing I'd definitely improve about my piece. So and yeah, but overall I thought it went really well. I mean, I thought that I conveyed all the right conventions for that of a genre film, and taking from what I learnt about all of my sort of market research, like when I'd sort of done my market research on my focus group, a lot of the people said that they would want something that's sort of something significant to sort of happen in the opening, so that way the rest of the film could actually play off of that. And I think that my opening sort of succeeded in that aspect, as we had the big argument at the beginning, so the rest of the film will be able to play off this. So obviously he runs away in the beginning, thus creating the title Runaway Boy. So then the rest of the film would be able to play off of this, and like him sort of coming home, more arguments with him. I'll be able to include the sort of convention of his sister as well, because I mean I was going to put that in the opening anyway, but then I thought we'd be trying to cram too much into something so little. So I mean, if I was to have done a full film, then I would have been able to include his sister and the problem of trying to not leave his sister behind while him being able to leave, and that whole scenario as well, which I would have loved to have done. But you know, I didn't want to cram too much, and I sort of tried to go for less is more with my opening. So I mean, I didn't want to cram so much information where the audience was starting to get confused. So plus also there was the whole sort of point of trying to make it real and trying to actually get my head around how to film it. And I think if I'd had a lot of cast members there in such a short amount of space, such a short amount of time, it would have made life a lot more difficult for myself as well. So I sort of it ended up working for the best, and I think that I've still got a strong media piece, regardless of the fact that I didn't include this sister. So I think that I've still sort of ended up with a strong piece regardless, and that if I was to do a full-length film, then I think there'd be so much more to add in with Runaway Boy. I think that there'd be a lot more to sort of show off, and there'd be a lot more conventions to add in to make it to sort of extend that sort of status of a drama genre film. So yeah, that's sort of that. That's sort of about the conventions and just sort of things like that. Um, I I think the characters worked really well as well. I mean, Mason. A lot of audience members have said that Mason's acting wasn't the strongest, which I would agree with. Mason, Dwayne was very good. Dwayne was a very good actor, and Dwayne played his character very well. He sort of made it very real because he played off of Mason. He didn't go directly in. Like, Mason was very quick to respond, which made it quite unbelievable, as it made it obvious that he was reading actually from a script. So this is one thing. So I mean, but with Dwayne, he sort of took what Mason said, took it on board, then replied, which is sort of what made it more believable. But I don't think the acting is what's really being moderated. I think it's more me that's being moderated. So I think, which is why the characters still worked out well, was I think that using such a sort of young cast, it sort of worked quite well. As I mean, this way, there's a lot of representations that can sort of come through. Because I mean, with Dwayne's character being sort of quite arrogant and just sort of things like this, and it sort of conveyed the representation of someone who's sort of the regular stereotype of the teenager, sort of, I mean, who's wearing a hoodie, which is something else that, I mean, audience members have played up upon. And yeah, just general things like this. Like, this is one representation that's come out of it, like the sort of social group of the teenager. So that's one representation to sort of come out of it. Next, I sort of want to cover the institutions. When I first sort of started my media piece, the first institution I went to was either between Momentum Pictures or Warner Brothers Pictures. But I then prioritise and say I would rather have Warner Brothers Pictures, as they've got a higher reputation in the film industry. They've got a lot more horizontal integration, what with their music catalogue, and with just all their all-round media actually for them. So, and I also said that they had in their films had a lot larger budgets, which would be easier to make a film with. But then now reevaluating and actually reflecting on my piece, I think that I've gone with the wrong. I think I've chosen the wrong institution to go with, and I think that I'd probably want to go with Momentum, because they've got a lot more experience in drama-based genre films. So with this experience, it means that it'd fit perfectly in their catalogue of films. I want to go, just while I'm here, just before I forget, I want to go over a slight issue with my piece. Even though I wanted to choose Momentum, I couldn't actually get their opening sequence, like, which goes in before every film. I couldn't get that without it being taken down. So instead, I just chose 20th Century Fox, and hopefully that won't get taken down before anyone can see it. If not, there'll still be the actual video just without the 20th Century Fox there. So I'm going to leave both of them up, and that way, if one of them works, great. If it doesn't, you can just go to the other one, and that will still work. But I just wanted to cover on that before. But going back, I think Momentum would be the better choice, as I don't think I would need a high budget for a film like Runaway Boy, and even so, they've still got budgets of about 25 million. When you're comparing that to about 150 million, it's nothing, but when you're comparing that to some films who make it with £150,000 budgets, that's quite a lot, and I think that Runaway Boy will be able to achieve tremendous results with 25 million. So yeah, I don't think there's any shadow of doubt that that I would need any more budget than that. And in regards to the reputation, Momentum has got a brilliant and a good, outstanding reputation producing films like The Fighter, Trust, Catfish. I mean, these are all brilliant drama genre films that are highly. I'm trying to think of the word now. That are highly sort of praised, and that are sort of renowned for being the perfect sort of drama film. So I think that Runaway Boy would fit quite nicely within their catalogue, and I think that it'd be quite a lot of marketing go forward into it, as I think that with sort of Runaway Boy, as mentioned in my written version of the evaluation and the PowerPoint version, it fits quite nicely, as it takes sort of the general problems of teenagers, like arguments and sort of wanting to sort of leave and find a new group and wanting to sort of fend for themselves, and it exaggerates that to a point where you can't help but feel intrigued and interested about my characters and about the whole plot, about what's going to happen, and you can't help but feel intrigued and interested about the whole sort of film. And this is something that the audience members have brought up. I mean, if you look at the comments on the video, I mean, it sort of says that it's been enjoyable, that there's just a lot of comments that say that they enjoyed it and that they want to know what happens, and this is backed up by my market research. When I went back to my focus group with the finished product, they wanted to know what happened, and I was seriously thinking about going away and actually doing a director's cut of what would have happened after the titles. Obviously not creating a feature-length film, but what just would have happened after the titles for like the next 5 minutes or so. But I think that might be a summer project or something, I'm not really too sure. But yeah, I think that this is what it boils down to. I think that it would fit nicely into their institution, and they'd be able to distribute it really well because it fits so nicely into their catalogue of other films. So yeah, I think that if I was to do my time again, I'd say momentum all the way. I'd push it. I think I'd find a way to get their opening sequence, but I was only told about it like 2 days before the deadline, and I've searched like everywhere for it, and I couldn't find it I couldn't find it because I couldn't download it onto my Mac, and then I couldn't open it up, and then in the end I just couldn't open it in any way, shape or form. So I had to go with 20th Century Fox just to put it on there. But if that gets taken down due to copyright, there'll be the original link still on YouTube, which you can just watch the actual video rather than focusing on the institution and distributor. Moving swiftly on, I'm going to go to the target audience. My target audience was of 12 and above. I think Runaway Boy would fit very nicely into this, as you're just coming into the teenage years, like 12. You moved into a new school, you moved into high school, like puberty's just starting, like you're sort of getting hormones, and you're sort of going through a weird time as a teenager. And as I've said before, the whole teenage thing, sort of my film, it takes this and it exaggerates it to such a high amount. It's a bit unrealistic, actually, to a point, but it just creates such a bombshell of a character's life, and I think that it makes the audience who are experiencing a small degree of this, like a tiny minuscule degree of this, and it makes them intrigued. It makes them want to know, like, what's going to happen, and it sounds a bit, I'm not sure, it sounds a bit wrong, but it makes them realise that their life isn't all like, oh yeah, I've got so much money. Like, it makes them realise that they've got a lot going for them which they don't understand, you know what I mean? Like, I know it sounds quite stupid comparing their actual life to a metaphoric opening sequence of a film, but I think that that's sort of the effect that it can have on some people who actually look at it in the right way. And I think that the target audience of 12 fits very nicely, as I think that all the way up until like 12 to 17, I mean, I've got audience feedback from age groups from 12 to 17, from whether it be from focus group, whether it be from social networking sites, whether it be from YouTube, whether it be from anywhere. I've got all this sort of feedback on my final product that says that they enjoyed it and that they wanted to know what happened, which brings me back to the point of how a lot of people wanted to know, and how I was seriously considering creating a director's cut of what happened. I mean, like, I got so much feedback. I was a little bit honoured, because it was just sort of, I sort of doubted myself. I sort of think that when you create something, you watch it back so many times, like you'll add another clip in and then you'll watch it back, and you're editing and you watch it back, and in the end you start to hate it a little bit, because you've watched it so many times. You begin to actually hate it. It's like you still know that what you're doing is good, and I think that when you sort of start to think, oh yeah, that's not working, and when things start to become sloppy, you have to have a break, then come back to it. But I think I watched my opening like so many times that it starts to get a bit annoying, and so other people saying, oh yeah, it's really good, it's really good, it's really good, but I kept thinking that it wasn't, So, like, this is why I seriously considered making a director's cut, because I was a bit honoured to actually think that I'd produced sort of something that people were praising sort of so much. So I think that it fits in very nicely within this target audience, and I don't think there's anything to change about this target audience. I think that it can work with target audiences above. I think that it maybe might work with younger audiences, seeing as how society is moving today. Like, going back to the whole representations of how society is working today, it could possibly work with younger, but I think the main target audience would be about 12 to 19, maybe about 22. The main sort of target audience for who this film would work for, and I think there's no need to change that whatsoever. Moving on to the sort of technologies, I used quite a lot of technology in my written and PowerPoint version of the evaluation. I said that it's not the technology you have, it's the person who uses it. I explained my previous experience with sort of creating, but I think that the more you create, the more you're intrigued at what technologies. And I'm a bit of a geek with technologies. I like to get a new bit of technology and explore all aspects of it anyway. So I mean, I used a lot of technology, and I sort of evolved in a lot of my technology. Like, I use a lot more of a tripod for this than what I would use previous to doing media. I used a lot more features. I sort of took a more hands-on approach towards this film, like setting everything to manual rather than previous experience just setting everything to auto and letting the camera do all the work. This time I was quite hands-on, and I explored new features of my camera which I haven't done before, and it really sort of made me dive head first into this media project, and it sort of created an opportunity for me to learn quite a lot about something I'd never really experienced. I just sort of set my camera to auto, let it do everything, but now I sort of play the role in up in the exposure, what happens there, up in the ISO, what happens there, and just sort of all these different features, and I got to experience, and I think that it's made me a more skilled person in this area due to this opening sequence, and I think that that's no lie. I don't think that's any. I don't think, one second while I rub my eye, I don't think that's any exaggeration to any extent. Finally, one sec before I forget. The blog was a big part of technology sort of for me as well. I'd never sort of done a blog, never actually thought about doing a blog. Never would have crossed my mind to even do a blog. Before this video project, I genuinely thought it was going to be go out, like, you sort of have an idea, go out, film it, edit it, done. It hasn't proved to be like that whatsoever. It's been a very long process, but a worthy and necessary process to actually create a full sort of film. It's like you're creating the whole film, except not the whole film, it's just the opening. And if the opening is this long, I think I'd love to work on a full film, because I think it'd be so much more enjoyable. I think that the opening is just sort of getting started, and I think that you sort of don't know everything about it. And I think that when you work on your own in particular, because you have to do everything, you feel all the weight lifted on your shoulders, and you can start to sort of fatigue a little bit. Like, when I was writing the script wasn't the best thing I've done. I've never been good at script writing anyway, but it wasn't the best thing anyway. It wasn't the best. It wasn't the best script that I've ever done, mainly because I'm not a script writer, and I think that if you work in a group, then you can sort of delegate responsibilities. And I think that the blog was very good, because I think that it was a lot of new technology to me, like the blog. I never thought of doing it, and I think that with all this creating a blog, it made me break it down into steps. Like, I knew what I had to do and then what I had to upload onto the blog, which was a good thing. And this was a good technology, and it's a common bit of technology for sort of filmmakers. I mean, I searched quite a lot of blogs of actual filmmakers and all the behind the scenes footage, the cast, the characters, the locations, things like this. It was all over their blogs, and I'm not a very big fan of all the back work that goes into the film, like Now I am, because I know what it feels like. So this technology has helped me, as I now know, sort of, to a slight extent, I know how it is to sort of create that opening of a film. So obviously it's not to an extent of creating a full feature length film, but it's still there in actually to an extent. So I now know sort of what it feels like, and I think that that's helped me drastically. And getting ideas from their blogs and just all things like that, it sort of helped me to actually create my blog as well. I'm going to move on now, because I think I'm starting to bore you probably after 20 minutes in. I'm going to go on to the preliminary task. I think I've developed a lot since the preliminary task, mainly because like one stupid mistake I made in the preliminary task was the shot reverse shot. I was trying to film the dialogue from their perspective, and I then realised when I came to edit that is not the case. You're supposed to film at them speaking, not from their perspective, looking at the other character, not looking at how they respond. You're supposed to look at them and how they're speaking. And it was a stupid mistake, and I cringe at the thought now of doing it. But it was because of this experience that I was able to learn from it, and actually develop as a filmmaker. And in my main task, I had done shot reverse shot quite a lot, and it was useful, and I actually used it correctly, which was the main thing. So I think that's one shining example of how I've developed since then. One other sort of way I've developed is through my control of the camera, because I mean during the preliminary task, when I had to show that I understood the 180 degree rule, it's very sloppy with my camera work. I was looking back at it and it was very shaky compared to 180 degree rule in my main task. When I go around the grave, it's not as shaky anymore, because I think I developed a sort of sense of control over the camera, which I think is what you need. You sort of need that steady hand, otherwise you don't want all the shaky footage going everywhere. So I think that with the preliminary task, it really did help me to sort of come into my own, and to sort of teach me a lot about the camera and the control of the camera, and just the all-round techniques. Because I mean, previously I was doing sporting films, I was doing free running movies. So I mean, you don't do shot reverse shot in there, you don't really do a 180 degree rule, you don't do a lot of these sort of camera angles. But I think when you're shooting a film or anything with dialogue, then you sort of have to plan it out a lot more carefully. And I'm not going to lie, I expected to come in to media, because I created a few free running films, I expected to come in and to sort of whiz through it, to sort of go, yeah, bang, 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 shot, done. That was not the case. I was sort of put into my place very quickly when I was actually doing it, and I think that it probably showed, because I think that during my preliminary task, I cringe at the thought of doing a shot reverse shot in that method now, because I now know how to do it right. And I think that's where the preliminary task is a good thing, because it teaches you those fundamental things before you get to your main task and make a complete falafel out of it. So yeah, I think that this is all I have to say really about my own evaluation, my own feedback of my final product. I think that it's, all in all, I think it's very good. I think the music, as mentioned earlier, isn't the best. If I was to do another one, or a director's cut, I'd probably change the music. I'd probably get some musicians in or something like that, which I know, probably get some of them in to actually write something for me, probably play that and then sort of record it and put it onto there. Other than that, probably better at no offence to Mason if you're watching this, but I think I'd probably get someone, or I'd probably work with him to sort of say, yeah, I'd probably do it like this, or I'd try and get the shot as many times as it took him to actually do it right, probably, or I'd try and fix it in the editing process. So yeah, that's my own evaluation.